We're broadcasting from the Texas Public Policy Foundation inside the Haley Family Broadcast Studios here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, just steps away from your Texas Capitol building. Joining me right now as we broadcast in Austin, the Lieutenant Governor for the great state of Texas, Dan Patrick. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm great, Chad. Great to be with you. We had a full day yesterday traveling the state with President Trump. From San Antonio to Houston to a place called Crosby, Texas, which is east of Houston, and back to Houston, and a full day with him yesterday. And I'm always amazed, Chad, the stamina, the energy, and the enthusiasm of this man. You know, he left the White House yesterday around probably 6:30 after a briefing and landed in San Antonio. Senator Donna Campbell and I joined him in his limousine and went to the San Antonio event. I joined him back in the limo and flew with him on Air Force One, so we had a lot of quality time to discuss issues. And then we landed in Houston, drove 40 minutes to the next event, came back, did an event there, came back another 40-minute drive, and he did his third big speech of the day, plus he squeezed in a press conference in the middle, and then landed somewhere around midnight last night, and I never saw him break a sweat. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a very busy day. Well, okay, before I get into legislative news, I have to ask you, since you said you talked a lot with the president, did any open positions in the government come up? Maybe Department of Homeland Security come up?
Well, Chad, first of all, I would never reveal anything that I had a private discussion with the president or any leader. But I will tell you that I'm not going to Washington. I'm staying here. In fact, I can break the news for you on your show right now. It's a little early, but I am running for Lieutenant Governor in 2022, so I'm not going anywhere. I've got the best job in any legislative body in the United States. I love what I do. I get to live here in Texas. I'm the campaign chairman for President Trump in Texas, so he needs me here. This is where I want to be, and this is where I'm staying.
All right, you heard it here first.
You got the news break. You got it.
There you go. I love it. I love it. You're running for reelection in 2022. You heard it here first, everybody.
And we're not going to Washington. The president. We have a lot to do here in Texas. 2020. He's going to win Texas. We're going to win it. But we have work to do, and this is where I need to be. And I get the best of both worlds. I get to live in Texas, be lieutenant governor, and have a great relationship with the president.
Very good. Let's talk about what's happening maybe today on the Texas Senate side of things. We know the House is going to be debating HB2. We had Senator Charles Perry in earlier today. He said it was very possible that SB2, property tax relief, the Senate version, could be debated in the Senate today. Will that be happening?
We are working towards it. We have been a vote short on the Republican side since the beginning of session, to be candid with you. We have 19 Republican senators, and we have 18 votes, and we've had 18 votes for quite a while, but it takes 19 to bring a bill to the floor. So unless Democrats join us, or a Democrat, one Republican senator can block a bill, unless we're in a special session, not to confuse the folks, but in the special, those rules change, and I only need a simple majority of 16 of the 31. But in a regular session, I need 19, and right now we have 18, and we're working on number 19.
Do you expect to get that 19th from a Democrat?
Let me just say I'm working on number 19.
Okay. You don't want to reveal your hand? You've already given me one piece of breaking news, and that's it, huh?
Well, look, we're working hard on this issue. Property taxes are paramount to me and the people of Texas. We have to have them. And one way or the other, we will get to where we need to be, whether it's today or another day. But we'll get to where we need to be. But it is frustrating. I will tell you, to have one Republican block the will of the people and even the will of their district. But we'll keep working on that.
Let me ask you this. We're visiting with the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, here on the Chad Hasty Show as we broadcast from the Texas Public Policy Foundation. To get a Democrat maybe to move over to get it to the floor to vote on, are there things that you have to explore that other Republicans have to explore as far as trade-offs go?
Well, I won't comment on that. There is no quid pro quo in the legislature of swapping one thing for another. But people have different ideas on bills, and as an amendment or something, for example, or a way to style a bill. And look, I've said from day one, we need to cap our school property taxes. I agree with the governor on this and the speaker at 2.5%. We cannot be any higher on 4% for our cities and counties. We'd like to be lower. We have many members who want to be lower, and some want to be around the 4% mark. So we will, let's just say we listen to ideas from people to get them there. We're very close on that issue. Let's say we've been one vote away for months, but we've been successful in the past of being able to negotiate successfully to get big things done, which we've always done. So I feel good about it. Again, whether it's today or another day, but we'll get there. Look, for me personally, I can't speak for anyone else in this building. I'm not going to quit until we get this done. I've been working on this since 2003. Long before I didn't join the Senate until 2007. So I brought busloads of people up here to testify against property taxes for a long time. What's interesting, Chad, is that there is a much, much greater will, and from the Democrats as well at this point. Look, they are burdened with the big property taxes as well, too, in their districts, whether they're a rural member or an urban member. And so, years ago, even as recently as, just a couple of sessions ago, it was kind of tough to get everyone rallied around it. We passed a bill out last session at 4%. Last session, the speaker, who then was in the House, offered us 6%, and we said no because, and I won't go into all the math here, Chad, but right now there's an 8% rollback rate plus growth. That means local government, cities and counties can grow at 8% a year, which is much, much, much too high. You can't sustain that growth. You break the bank. And, people just can't pay it. Their salaries are going up 2%, 3%, maybe a year. You can't increase their property taxes 8%, cities and counties, and school taxes are going up. So we want to bring that rollback rate to 4% or less. That cuts the growth of your taxes in half. Once you get to about 5 or 6%, that you really the results are minimal. And I don't want to leave here and pass a bill that doesn't have a real impact. So if we, and our goal is and we'll introduce the 2.5% next week in our school bill. We had it in this bill, this current bill, but the parliamentarian, the House, I guess, apparently we filed the same bill that the House did. We had 2% across the board, and the parliamentarian said we couldn't have the schools in with the counties and cities. It was a 2-subject rule, so we'll put the 2.5% in our school bill. But if we can cap your school taxes of growing at 2.5% a year, where right now statewide they're growing around 7%, and cities and counties, and look, and in your listening area, there are many small cities and small counties that aren't growing anywhere near that. But in much of our state there are, and in parts of your listening area there are, of course. So if we can cut the growth dramatically and then additionally cut taxes this year for taxpayers, hundreds of dollars, just to start this year, and give the people a vote on any city and county taxes, because if a county says or a city says, look, I need more than 3% or 4%, then they have a right to go to the people and vote. But more than that, they have a right. In other words, we're going to give them that opportunity. But more than that, the people have a right to vote. Right now, Chad, the people have no right to vote on their taxes at 8% plus new growth. And so you have no control over it. And that has to end, and we're going to end it.
Let me ask you about this. We're visiting with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Yesterday, the Governor Abbott and the Speaker announced a proposal to increase the sales tax in Texas if you can buy down property taxes. Talk about that just a little bit and where we are as far as timeline goes on this type of proposal and what feedback you've gotten already.
So, first of all, the feedback has been varied among Republicans, mostly support. Our polling shows that over 70% of Republicans support. They'd rather pay an extra penny on sales tax and lower property taxes. And my wife sent me a story from Houston yesterday that on local television. They just did a quick viewer poll, and 87% of the people said yes, because you can control what you buy. And if we have the votes to increase sales tax by the members a penny, it's a very small increase, but 1 penny brings in about $5 billion a year, Chad, and that allows us to really address our school property taxes. We're working on that. It's ultimately always up to the members and the people who, back home who will tell their members, hey, I like this or I don't like this. But the real issue about this is that we want to put everything on the table. And we know that in the conservative wing of our party, for sure, and I'm a consumption tax guy, if I could raise the sales tax, several more pennies to get rid of property taxes, I'd be in favor of that. But the number would be too high. Can we find a middle ground where we can let right now homeowners and business owners who have business property, they're carrying the whole burden, the whole weight. Landowners, they're carrying the weight of the school system in the cities and counties. We need everyone in Texas, including all the tourists that come through, to help pay for our schools. There's only 3 ways you can tax the public. It's income tax, which we'll never have. That's one of those over my dead body issues. That's never even going to be discussed as long as Republicans are in charge. And sales tax or property taxes. And our property taxes are just too high. And they don't need to be that high. Local cities, counties, and school districts, do not need to grow 5, 6, 7% a year. I mean, last session, we're averaging, since I've been lieutenant governor and since I've been around the Senate, if you average year to year, our budget grows somewhere less than 3% a year. We're going to be around 5% this year. Last year we were 0.2. So over the last 4 years, we're 2.5% a year. That's around population and inflation. That's where local governments and school districts need to be. There's only so much money that people have. There was a story in the Dallas Morning News when we first introduced this roll back this rate from 8 to 4% or 2.5 or 3. And the cities and counties, and I realize they have a tough job. I respect their position, but they said, this is going to cost, cities and counties across Texas $900 million. And my answer was it's going to put $900 million back in the pockets of taxpayers, which they'll spend in the economy, which helps the economy, which, by the way, increases sales taxes. So we need to do this. Chad, I've got to go. I've got back-to-back meetings before we go on the floor here. But any last question you have? Okay,
one last question I have. When it
That's
comes
always
to,
the most dangerous one, by the way, the last question. I'm just kidding. Go
ahead. There have been some conservative groups who have lashed out at you, the governor, and the speaker for not running a conservative session. What is your response to that?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. So let's see. Last week we passed the religious liberty bill. Last week we passed the infanticide bill, which protects lives of babies in an attempted abortion that they're still alive after, that Virginia and New York will protect. We are going to pass. We've passed out another strong pro-life bill. We're going to pass out a voter election integrity bill, so we can double check actual ballots with a paper count of that, so we don't have voting machines turning out more votes than their registered voters, in case that might happen somewhere. We're going to pass out Second Amendment bills. Our top 30 priorities, along with other bills, are our same conservative bills as always. So there's no one in I'm the most conservative lieutenant governor in the history of Texas, and I would like to think the most conservative, or I'll put myself there with other leaders in the state and in the country. And no one doubts how conservative we are. We passed a resolution last week supporting the president's emergency order on the border. So, look, some people, you can't make everyone happy all the time. And if there's some people who have a different view, but no one has any misconception that we're going to have a very conservative session, again, as we've had the last two. And, some people were, and look, I'm just going to, stand up for what I believe in. Some people, in our conservative wing, which I love and cherish, but they disagree that I want to give teachers a pay raise across the board. And I believe our teachers need a pay raise. I'm really the only guy up here fighting for it. I mean, with senators in the Senate, the teachers need a pay raise. The average teacher's making $47,000 a year coming out of college, and about $53,000 a year after they've been working 5 or 6 years, and that's just not enough money to attract our best students out of college. Teachers are our most important. Next to our parents, the teacher is the most important person in the education of a child. We haven't given them a statewide raise since the 1990s. And I believe our teachers need a raise. Yes, I also want to create incentive, bonus plans and incentive plans for them so they can make even more money. But when they can come out of college, Chad, and have offers to go into the private sector and make much more money. Even a young man or a young woman who wants to become a teacher, you know, they got to make a living, and they got to take care of their families. So I think that's probably the only issue that some of the conservatives have had issue with. Well, why are we giving every teacher an across-the-board raise? You know, they're bad teachers. Well, you know what? 2 years ago, we gave every child protective service worker, social worker a raise, and we didn't ask which ones were bad, good, or in the middle. We've given law enforcement across-the-board raise. We didn't ask which were the best cops, the middle-of-the-road cops, the ones who aren't on the job. And I don't like that teachers are held out somehow that, well, we can't give everyone a raise because we have some bad teachers. Look, that's not up to the state to decide who the bad teachers are. That's up to the principal of the school, and that's up to the superintendents to weed through the teachers. And like everyone else, whether it's a doctor or a politician or a TV anchor or a radio talk show host, there are great ones, there are good ones, and there are some bad ones. And but I'm not going to. Most of our teachers are terrific, and they do a great job. And this argument, because 5% of our 340,000 teachers might not be up, and we don't want to give them a raise, it's just nonsense to me. And that's up to the local districts to decide. And by the way, when a superintendent has another and our bill, our budget just passed this week, gives every teacher a $5,000 board across the raise, that gives them the ability to go out and hire better people and retain people, Chad. We're losing a lot of teachers. You know, the average teacher in Texas has about 10 years of experience. You know, we used to have teachers that taught for 20 and 30 years, and we still have some, and quite a few actually. But I mean, it should be hopefully a lifetime career. And I've heard so many teachers say to me, Dan, I want to teach, but I got to be a principal to make more money, or I have to, be this, or I have to run, go on a pathway to be a superintendent. I just want to teach my kids. So let's give teachers a good wage. They're never going to get rich. They didn't take the job to get rich, just like our policemen and firemen don't take jobs to get rich. They want to serve the public. They love what they do, but we have to pay them a wage that they can support their family. So if that's the only thing that people have to complain about, what the Senate passed this year, I'll take that on the chin, because my wife is a retired teacher. My mother-in-law was a retired teacher. My daughter-in-law retired from teaching after she had a couple of children. I've been around teachers my whole life. I know how hard they work, and I'm going to fight for that. The House has cut the raise to $1,800, but that's what we negotiate on. They're giving everybody in the school system a raise, and right now I want to focus on our 340,000 teachers. And by the way, that bill passed 31-0, so every Republican joined me on that. So any conservatives that were upset with me about that, well, they got 19 other Republicans that voted for the bill, too. So I got to run. Hey, thank you, Chad. Always a pleasure.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, appreciate your time.